Good afternoon, class. We are getting ready to tackle our third part of the milestone assignment, which is generating a new branch, a feature branch for milestone 1, making a quick change, and seeing how that ties in with our pendant system since we've now hooked those two together. So to start with, you should have your project ready and pulled up. This is the local copy that you cloned from your GitHub when you created your GitHub milestone. So here we have our project, and I have this Aquarius ice. We're going to make a change to, but first we want to create our feature branch. And I tend to do all my work with Git at the command line. I know that you guys have probably learned to use the GUI version that's built into Visual Studio. I like the command line because it gives me better control, and if you're not working in Visual Studio, which you're not always going to be when you start switching to other languages, you're going to need to know the command line versions of things. Now, Visual Studio does have a terminal built into it, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And notice it's the developer PowerShell, so it's got a lot of extra features, bells and whistles specifically for a developer. I like to just leave this open while I'm working. I go ahead and pin it so that it sticks around. And we can go ahead and run git status, which tells us just the information about our Git repo. We're on branch main. We're up to date with origin main. Origin is the GitHub copy of this repo. So we have a remote repository, and there's nothing special about the name main. It's just the name that's given to the remote repo that you clone from. So whenever you use the clone command, it will go ahead and set up an origin remote repository, but you can actually have as many remote repositories with as many names as you want. And obviously everywhere we clone this, we can also create as many local repositories as we want. So we can have, for example, one in the computer labs and one at home. And so right now, we only have one branch. Every time we start a new milestone, we want to create a new feature branch to go with that. And we do that with the command git branch. And if I just type in git branch and hit enter, it's just going to tell me what branches I have. Notice I just have main. That's the currently selected branch. If I want to create a new branch, I do git branch, the name of the branch, and we're going to use ms1 for milestone 1. And this is the naming convention we're going to use for all our feature branches. It's ms1, ms2, ms3, ms4, ms5, all the way through the total number of milestones we have. So we do that. That creates our branch. We can see that by doing another git branch with no arguments. Notice now we have main and ms1. We want to check out milestone 1, so we're going to do git checkout ms1. Now that is the current branch that we're working on, and we can go ahead and make some changes to our project and commit those. So the change we're going to do, which is this Aquarius Ice class, we're going to add a name property to it. So I'll come ahead and come down to the bottom of the class, do a public string name. And this is a read-only property, which means it's only going to have a getter. It's not going to have a setter. And we're just going to return. What we want to return is the size, Aquarius, and flavor of the Aquarius Ice with the words Aquarius Ice. So I like to use the template strings, which we put a $sign in front of, and then we can put variables, C# variables, into the brackets, and it will be concatenated into the string. So this is the same as taking the variable plus the string Aquarius size plus. I think this is a little cleaner format, and you may disagree, but we want to put in the size, which is this enum, which has 3 sizes, small, medium, and large. One of the nice things about enums is that their toString method returns the label. So we could just go ahead and use the value size, and because it's in a string being concatenated, it will actually automatically invoke the toString method. So this will be replaced with small, medium, or large. And we can do the same thing on the flavor. And that's going to give us the corresponding ice flavor: lemon, orange, watermelon, blue raspberry, strawberry, or mango. All right, so now we'll save that file, And we also want to commit that to our branch. So we're going to come back down to our PowerShell and we're going to say git. And whenever we're adding changes, we'll normally do a git add period, which adds any new files we've created that haven't been added yet. Now in this case, we don't have to because there's no new files. We've just modified an existing file. And the second one we usually do is git commit, which creates a new commit -a to say add every file that's changed that's already been staged -m with a message, and we'll just say added name property to Aquarius Ice. Now, if you've been using the Visual Studio GUI, the git add and the git commit steps are actually combined into a single step in that GUI. And that's because that GUI was actually not built for Git. It was built for Microsoft's own repository tool, which frankly was never widely adopted. And eventually they realized Git was just too popular and they needed to support it. So they created this kind of port of using their repository GUI with Git, and I just don't care for it. It's not really, it doesn't map one-to-one to the Git commands, and there's several things that are missing, so I really prefer to work at the shell level, and I would encourage you to do the same, because at some point you're probably not always going to be working with C#. If you're working with Python, you're working with JavaScript, you're working with Erlang or any other programming language, you aren't going to be doing that probably in Visual Studio. At least I would hope not. Visual Studio is great for the Microsoft .NET languages. It's not really a great IDE for any other language. So I would definitely say you'll want to be working in a different environment when you switch languages. And you're probably going to be using Git at the command line, so you might as well learn it now. Okay, so we've done that commit, and that commit has been done against our branch. So if we go ahead and say git status, notice we're on branch MS1, nothing commit, the working tree is clean, but that only exists on this branch, not on main. And I can show you that because we can check out main. And as soon as I do that, notice that the name property we just added just vanishes. It's gone. But if we want it back, we can just check out MS1 again. And boom, it pops back in. So all of the changes we're making are happening on our branch now, not on our main repository, which is really nice. Because if we decide the direction we're going is just horrible and we don't want to use it, we can just throw away that branch. We can start over. Okay, now let's get to pushing. So we can do a git push, and we want to push to the origin, which is our remote repo, our GitHub repo, and we want to push the name of the branch. And what this is actually doing is it's going to take our branch, our local MS1 branch, and it's going to push it to the remote MS1 branch, which at this point does not exist. So this command's also going to end up creating a remote branch MS1 and set this branch to kind of track against that. Notice that it created a new branch on GitHub, KSU, CS, Webhook, Test, Zombie, Paladin, so mine, and it took our local MS1 and applied it as the remote MS1. So those changes have now been pushed to GitHub, and if we were to go visit our GitHub repo, which we'll do right now. Notice right now it's only showing one branch. If I refresh this page, now it says 2 branches. And we can go and look at what that branch looks like if we want to dig into it. And we can also pull that branch in our, like say if you push these changes from the lab and you go home to your PC there, you can pull origin MS1 into a local MS1 branch and set it up as a feature tracking branch, which is described in the description of the milestones and how to set that up. So that lets you work in multiple places and be committing to your feature branch. Now the other thing that happens is because we did set up a webhook for this project, if we go to our settings and go look at that webhook, so in the webhooks, we can see that we actually have a delivery that went out that hit that webhook. And in this case, it's timed out. I'm going to fix this issue. What's happening is there's a long running process where it clones and validates the assignment and all of that. And it just takes too long to get back a response, but it actually does work. And you can check that, because if we go to actually the Pendant app and click on the validations, it will show us that validation, the date and time that that validation was requested, and the number of issues that were found inside or with that particular build. And if we go click on the details here, this is giving us a detailed breakdown of what's going on. So you can see we're missing class Aquarius Ice Flavor, and by the way, these are not the messages you're going to see. Like I said, this is kind of a test project I've been playing with. So this it's looking for class Aquarius Ice Flavor, where Aquarius Ice Flavor is actually an enum, so that doesn't match up. So that's why that gets that report. No design issues were found. Design issues are kind of common mistakes that I've seen students make. We actually suss some of those out, which are based on kind of misconceptions of how to use Visual or C#. Functional issues cannot be checked for until our structural issues are fixed. This is basically running a test suite, but that test suite needs the entire project to be there before that can happen. And then we also have a lot of style issues. Specifically, we have to have XML comments, and you'll see that when we get up there to the documentation chapter. And if you look at the Get Help here, you can follow that link, and it's going to describe what that should look like, what the fix is, or what the problem is. We can also click this Show Location, which is going to take us to our GitHub repo and show us, oh, this new guy that we added, name, does not have proper comments, and we can go and fix that by throwing the comments we need up there, which is a summary which just describes what this property is. Name used to describe the Aquarius. Nice. And if we were to commit and push that, then that particular issue would no longer be shown. So this is just a quick way to figure out if your project, if you're going the right direction in your project, and if you've missed anything that's going to potentially impact your grade on that project. Now, this is not grading. This is just for you as a helpful tool to help make sure that you're building things right and that you've got everything covered. What you are going to turn in is actually a release, and you're going to turn in a release where you've merged your milestone branch back into the main branch. So to do that, we're going to I just made a change. Let's go ahead and commit that change. Added comments, XML comment. So we can do a git push origin main, and oops, not origin main, origin ms1. And that means that we've just run another validation. So if I go back to validations, should have a new one. For some reason that link doesn't want to work right now. So we can see that I went from 7 issues to 6 issues. So I fixed that one issue when I made that change. But now we want to go ahead and merge MS1 back into our main branch. So the first step there is we're going to check out main, and then we're going to do a git merge MS1. So that's saying I want to take the changes I made on MS1 and pull them into the main branch, which is the one I currently have checked out. And notice that now name pops in, and we have now updated so that main has this. And then we can do git push origin main. So we're going to push these changes to our main branch up to our GitHub repo on the main branch. And now if we go look at the GitHub repo, and we can drill down into the data, the treats, Aquarius Ice, and we'll see that that name actually exists in there now. So we are ready to submit this, and how we're going to submit that is we are going to create a release. So you come over here to the side where we see create a new release, and we're going to call our release milestone 1. And we want to use my tagging. Oh, sorry. We're going to use semantic numbering here. So this would be version 1.0.0, because this is our first release for milestone 1. So the first number here is our, and you can use either 0 or 1, but this indicates what release this is. Technically, they're all going to be pre-release is what we're doing, so I'm going to go ahead and start with 1. So this is major release. So for milestone 1, it will be 1. For milestone 2, it will be 2. And this is the minor release. Actually, let me back. Yeah, minor release. So actually, let's do it this way. We're going to start with a major release of 0 because this is a pre-release, and then we're going to do, for milestone 1, we're going to be doing version 0 as the minor version. So each milestone we're going to say is a new minor version, and then we have a patch version. So if I figured out I screwed up and didn't include something in my repo or something, I want to come back and do a new submission, then I would change this to 1, then 2, then 3. And then next time I make a milestone for milestone 2, I'd start back at 2.0.2.0. So we're going to number up that way. So I'm going to start that. And milestone 1 submission. This is technically a pre-release, so we can go ahead and check that, but it really doesn't matter if you do or not in terms of grading. It's just a way of indicating to people, don't expect this program to work yet because it's not all done. And then we'll go ahead and publish our release. Didn't like my tag. Do I have some spaces in there? Version 0.1.0. It might be not liking that because they want an alpha or something after that. So let's just take off the pre-release. No. What is invalid about my tag? The 2.1.0. Oh my gosh, what is your problem? All right, we're stopped. We're done.